I think that opponents of Viktor Yanukovych's regime basically back the idea of appealing for international aid. I think they think that Ukraine needs all the help that it can get. And I also think that they're basically warmly receptive to the idea of international supervision over events that are going on in Ukraine. Arseniy Yatsenyuk, one of the opposition leaders today, mentioned the idea of an international inquiry piloted by the Council of Europe. But one of the reasons why they support international involvement, in fact, is that they are a bit wary of their opposition leaders, because Arseniy Yatsenyuk and also Petro Poroshenko, who's risen to prominence very quickly among the opposition leaders, are people who have served in previous Ukrainian governments, held ministerial positions in governments that did very little really to change Ukraine's system, to get rid of all the corruption that people are complaining about so much. Petro Poroshenko, in fact, even served under Viktor Yanukovych. So people do view those leaders with suspicion. Some are prepared to accept that these men are from a younger generation and that they're different really from the old guard, even if they served under them. Others are not. That's the reason why Vitaly Klitschko has emerged perhaps as the most popular of the opposition leaders, because he is not somebody who has previously held a government post. He made his money in boxing, as you know, comes from outside the political arena, and people do like him for that reason.
Now, moving now to that crowd behind you. In the past few weeks, we've seen a lower turnout for these Sunday demonstrations. In fact, last week's was cancelled for the funeral of a young activist. What's the atmosphere like this Sunday?
I think actually today the crowd would have been bigger if it hadn't been for the fact that there was quite a lot of confusion even this morning as to whether there was really going to be a big rally or not, whether the opposition leaders were going to be back in time from that conference in Munich in order to speak to the crowd on the stage. But there was still, yes, several tens of thousands of people, not the biggest we've seen, but a respectable crowd, and it was a sunny day. And after several days, in fact 2 weeks really, in which the atmosphere here has been dominated by the self-defense forces protecting Independence Square, carrying their makeshift weapons, and a lot of fear around, it was nice to see that there were sort of much more ordinary, unarmed Kievans who come out just to demonstrate, and the atmosphere was quite a lot more joyous than it has been in recent days, though that's not to say that the fear has been removed, far from it. Also, Ukrainian House, which was occupied the other day after protesters discovered that police had been hiding out in there, that's now become a place where they've been holding cultural events. Today there were poetry readings going on and people playing music when I was there. They've also set up a temporary library in there. So there is still that side of this movement that is very much about people getting together and doing things. It's not all about violence and fear.